Oh, I got you, Mr. Torg. Hey, what's up guys? Senpai Grayson back with another video. This time, a review video. It's a review on a Moze build. Infinite explosions, infinite shots, infinite everything. No matter what, you're going to be shooting and tossing grenades. I want to start off by saying that this is a very sloppy build. And what I mean by that is you're going to be blowing everything up. Think of yourself as a walking nuke. You might even blow yourself up sometimes. It's super fun though. The goal of this build is to cause as much destruction as possible. But the reaction of it is that you regain ammo and grenades constantly. There are some weak points to the build and I seek to address that, and I'll cover that in the video as well. Before we get started, I want to make sure you like, comment, and subscribe for more content like this. We'll be doing weapon reviews and other builds as well. I want to set some expectations for this build. I'm rating it 5 stars in the damage category because you're going to be doing massive damage and hitting enemies multiple times over and over again with splash damage. As for the defense category, I'm going to give it 2 stars. The reason being is because you're going to hurt yourself a lot. That's a big problem. But if you play around it, you could do a really good job with it. You do have some passive healing in the tree, mainly on grenade hits, and you will be hitting them a lot. So you'll see your health go up and down pretty frequently, but you better be prepared because you're not stacking any shields or health. Since this is one of the weaknesses, I will actually address how you get around it and how you can save yourself from killing yourself pretty easily and ways to reposition. I'm gonna give this a 4 stars in the utility category. What that means is we're gonna be causing a lot of different elemental ailments, and also we have singularities. This means that enemies won't attack you as much, and I'll talk about how we can use the mech in order to kind of cater to the fact that this build has very low defense. This build is very great against the smaller mobs, but not super awesome against the bosses. You will not be one-shotting bosses, but you'll be able to handle them pretty easily. It'll just take a little bit more time. I'll show you an example of this later, and you'll also want to watch out for enemies that resist incendiary damage and radiation damage. There are a few pros to this build. The first being that it's great against ground units and also large groups. The second being the fact that you don't really need to reload or pick up grenades almost ever, and then it also works with many different weapon types. What this means is almost anyone can pick up a couple of mods and purple guns and make this work. However, I will recommend some legendaries that work really well with this build. And obviously, there are some cons to this build. The first con being, obviously, you could blow yourself up. You're non-stop throwing grenades, you're non-stop shooting stuff, and those guns that you have, if you have the legendaries, may shoot some things that can hurt you as well. The next thing is, this build has a bit of a skill curve. You're going to be strafing backwards constantly so that the grenades don't kind of fall on your feet, and you're going to need to know how to reposition yourself when you do hit yourself and the elements are ticking on you. Lastly, this one's kind of obvious. It's weak versus air units. Well, it's because you're throwing grenades and lobbing stuff at the floor. Unless you have homing grenades that split into like other grenades, I would say that this is going to be weak pretty consistently versus air units. Luckily for us, the Atlas manufacturer actually creates weapons that work really well with this build and completely nullify this weak versus air units issue. Alright, so how do you build this thing? Let's look at the skill tree. As you can see, for our primary skill tree, we're going to be using the blue skill tree. Starting with our first 5 points, we're going to put 5 into firing the Skagden, giving our splash damage 15% incendiary damage bonus. Next, we're going to grab Torg Cross Promotion, giving us a 21% chance to double splash damage with our mod. and we're gonna also do means of destruction. This is our main skill. You want the point count for this to be the highest so that you can return grenades and ammo to your clip. Next is pull the holy pin, allowing your grenades to crit, super important for more damage. 1 point to vampire, just so your grenades can heal you. You can actually switch the points between this one and why can't I carry all these grenades? You could do whatever you want with that because you can buy more SDU slots for your grenades. 4 points to explosive punctuation, which will bring your action skill ability back faster, allowing you to escape more explosives. And to the last will allow you to throw grenades and get up more often. You will go down, and then short fuse is super important. It's free splash damage and damage on your guns. This doesn't matter if you're already using an element. As you can see, there are no points in the Shield of Retribution tree. Moving on, you can see that we have a lot of points in the Bottomless Mags tree, starting with Cloud of Lead. This gives us additional incendiary damage and won't consume ammo on every 4th shot. Just all around beneficial. This stacks somewhat with our Fire in the Skag Den. Anytime we do splash damage, we're going to do additional incendiary damage, which could stack if it's the 4th shot of the gun that we're using, if it's already doing splash damage. Next is Match Set. It just gives us magazine size and less heat per shot. Then we're going to move on to Redistribution. Crits give you ammo back into your magazine, building on our concept of this build. Scorching RPMs, free crit damage, free fire rate. And then Russian Offensive. Russian Offensive just allows us to move while we shoot. The Iron Bank, this gives us maximum magazine size, which is just incredible. You can spill out more bullets. You can't get any better than that. There's a couple things that I find useless. Specialist Bear, because we're not using the same weapon on both arms of the mech. And also Scrappy. Scrappy is good for COV weapons, but that's about it. And then Click Click, I have 1 point, and the only reason is it gives us gun damage at the end of the day. Some for the Road gives us unlimited ammo when we get out of our mech, which is just extremely useful. I thought about putting 1 point into Armored Infantry because it gives you a raw damage reduction and also 3% more gun damage. We're using the V35 grenade launcher with the 7th round being a singularity, which means that while we're in the mech, we can group the enemies together and we have the nuke for radiation damage and just one big pop. However, the nuke really doesn't do any significant damage, and there's no way to really get it there unless there's a mod out there that I don't know about. Next, let's move on to the weapons. Our first weapon is the boring gun. I would say that this is a great gun for this build, but not required. It shoots saw blades onto the ground, it splits, and it blows up a bunch. It's everything that we need to deal splash damage. However, not a requirement. Next is the lead sprinkler. This is great because whenever you shoot an enemy, it sprays out explosives from over top of their head. It's just a ton of splash damage. I do like this weapon and I feel like it's a staple of this build. However, any gun that shoots multiple pellets in a shot will replace it just fine. Don't use any torque shotguns that have a lot of pellets. You want larger explosions so you can hit more enemies and deal more area of effect. I use an Atlas weapon that has multiple pellets per shot, and the reason for that is because we have issues with hitting enemies in the air. The shield doesn't matter, I just went for high capacity. Next we have a mod that has +2 to Torg cross promotion, 1 redistribution, which is super important, and 2 to means of destruction. Means of destruction is super important. If you could get +3 and 1 to Torg, that'd be awesome. You need redistribution. Your grenades can crit, so they'll cause your ammo to actually come back to your gun. Now there is a legendary mod that fits this build very well. It's the Minesweeper. As long as you have redistribution on it, you should be good to go. But if you also have means of destruction, it would work out super well as well. If you have it, put that on. All right, so the most important part is the grenade. You want grenades that hit multiple times. My favorite here is the Merv grenade that will fire off 6 other grenades out of it, dealing radiation damage to everyone, causing enemies to be radiated and explode on other enemies, just stacking up the splash damage and reloading my guns, reloading my grenades. The artifact really doesn't matter. There are artifacts out there that make radiation damage stronger, give you magazine size, maybe make you do more cryo damage, but it's up to you. Whatever you want to do for that, you can do it. There's a lot of viability in a lot of the artifacts that you can use. Some even give you more damage based on if you are hit by an element, and since you'll be hitting yourself all the time, that might be beneficial to you. I have one here that would give you plus 18% of your max health on enemy kill. However, I'm not using it for the sake of the video. All right, so let's check out what I'm talking about. We're gonna go ahead and pit ourselves against a large group of mobs. They're pretty beefy. As you can see, I'm tossing grenades while shooting constantly. I'm never needing to reload. My grenades are not going down. You can see them coming back up. And I'm absolutely destroying all of the enemies without really getting hit by much or taking any damage. We have a flyer here, and so what I do is I take out my Atlas weapon and I just hit him with a tracking dart and he's down pretty quickly. So we just continue this the whole entire time. You can see our grenades are critting, our shots are critting. The gun really doesn't matter. It's more about the grenades than anything. So feel free to try out different weapons with this. I'd like to know what guns you guys try with this and see what actually works and what doesn't. Another thing is, I haven't tested too many of the legendaries with this. There may be some better legendaries for this build. I want to see if there's a legendary that's better than the assault rifle and the shotgun that I have on in this video. But I'm kind of feeling like I landed the mark on this. I don't think there's anything that's gonna cause any more mayhem than this. There's a lot of chaos going on, and half the time I can't even see my screen from all the crap that's flying around. So as you can see here, I jump in my mech when I start to get surrounded, or if there's a lot of damage or ticks happening to me at the time. I use the mech to reposition or get invincibility frames when I end up blowing myself up. It's kind of a little safeguard, and since you have the bonus of lowering your cooldown whenever you do splash damage, it's pretty awesome. It does the trick and it keeps you alive a lot longer. All of the video you see here is from Mayhem Mode 3. I got 2 debuffs that absolutely destroyed the DPS of this build, and it still managed to just cut through the enemies like butter. I got a decrease to damage from all shotguns and also a decrease to damage from all guns. I did get a buff of 50% back up to 0% for assault rifles, but it's really just dropping us back down to 0 up or down. So it doesn't help any at all. So the only thing left to show you is the video of the boss monster, showing you how much of a struggle it is compared to dealing with the regular enemies and the badass enemies. So I thought that the Rampager would be the perfect showcase for this build, considering the fact that it flies around and also is a ground unit at the same time. You could see that it's a bit of a struggle. His first phase, he's resistant to radiation damage, so that doesn't help at all. And you can see it takes me a good bit to get him down past his first phase. However, for the second phase, he gets bursted pretty quickly. He's not immune to the radiation damage anymore, and he takes a whole lot of damage all at once. It's considerably different. The second phase took me about half the amount of time that it took me to take out the first phase. But the third phase was more like the first phase, and he also flies around, and it's nearly impossible to hit him during this. However, it all worked out. He didn't take me out. I didn't have to try again, and this is all on Mayhem 3, so it's working out pretty well. I suggest everyone trying this build. If you do plan on trying this build, make sure you give me a thumbs up and comment what you think about it. or what happened when you built it, if you have any twist to it. I just want to know exactly ways to improve it. If you have any comments on this review, how to improve it, what to do with it, or something that you'd like to see, let me know. This build's been a ton of fun. Until next time, I'll see you later. Peace out.